Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in today. I have a very special model to show you guys around today. This is the McLaren Speedtail, and it's obviously in a 1/18th scale made by Autoart, and we're going to be going over some of the details, features, and my overall opinions on this particular car. So we'll start off with the spec of it. This is, in my opinion, the best spec you can get for this car. I mean, it's coming across kind of blue right now, but this is a very purple car, and it looks absolutely stunning. Obviously, it's got the Hermes-styled orange interior, finished with kind of these two-tone silver and black wheels, and obviously a bit of carbon fiber on the wheels themselves, but we'll show you that in a little bit. So we'll start off with the front of this model. And actually, before I do that, let me show you guys what the box looks like real quick. Obviously, it's very large. This is a lot bigger than a lot of the other Autoart boxes. I'd say it's maybe an extra like 3 inches or so longer. Absolutely massive. Nothing really too crazy about it though. It just says McLaren Speedtail, and then on the other side, it'll tell you the spec of it. So it's purple. I'm not going to try to pronounce that name, Lantana purple or something like that. But yeah, so back to the model itself. Let's take a look at the front of the car and I'll show you some of the details there. So starting off with the McLaren badge itself, obviously this is Autoart. We get a real badge on there. It says McLaren. It's honestly kind of hard to read, but they did make out the letters, and there's a little logo right there on the left. So or the right, sorry. But it does look pretty decent. And yeah, honestly, this is kind of just an interesting looking model. I mean, there's not really too many features on the exterior to talk about because it's so smooth, but I'll try to show you the best I can. So coming around the front, there are kind of like a indentation in the hood for, I guess, air cooling or something like that, but it does look pretty decent. It's a little dusty in there. This is a used model I got. And I did pay $200 for this. I think you can probably pick one of these up for around maybe 240 bucks plus. I've seen them go for $280 before, but for $200, I mean, in this spec, you can't beat that. I know you could probably get the other colors in cheaper prices, but for me, this is the one to have. So moving on though, we have the headlights themselves. And there is a bit of carbon fiber underneath the lights, so that is a cool little feature. But the lights, like the headlights themselves, are kind of hard to see any detail inside of them. I know there's something going on in there, but I just really can't make it out. Obviously right here, I think this is a daytime running light strip that turns on, so that is a cool little feature, as you can see. And then below, just a lot of carbon fiber on the front splitter. As you can see, it kind of follows up through the front of the car. But no real, like, you know, mesh grills in the front to note. But yeah, this is a fully opening model, so that is kind of cool. On the windshield itself, obviously we have one huge windshield wiper, and that looks pretty decent. And moving down to the side, yeah, I think one of the coolest features on this car is the wheels in the front, because they have these little air discs that I guess make the car more aerodynamic. And this is finished in carbon fiber, like I mentioned earlier. There is a little McLaren badge in the center of the wheel cap, and you can't really make out too many details behind there, but there is also orange brake calipers to match the interior. But I'm not sure if these actually come off or not. They really could, but I'm not going to mess with it. And I'm pretty sure they're not supposed to come off. But as the car moves, these wheels do sit into place. Or, I mean, this little disc sits in the same place. So as you can see, you know, it's just a really cool feature. So moving on, there is little side kind of, what do they call these, cameras that pop out. I don't think on the model they come out at all, and I could be wrong about that, but I wasn't able to get these out. But they are there. There's a little indent, and maybe there is a way to pop those out, but I'm not too sure on that. So following through, maybe the design I'll speak about a little bit more. So coming through this side, there is a little air intake right there through the rear, as you can see, and then there's also another side air intake to release pressure from the wheel well, and so that's kind of what that looks like from this angle. Honestly, when you're looking at it from the side though, I feel like you kind of lose some of those features, but trust me, when you look at it from the front, like you can really kind of see the body lines of it, and it looks absolutely incredible. So this body line does follow up through, and you get a nice little crease right here up at the top near the rear wheel well. And I'll show you the rear wheels themselves. So obviously, like I said, they are like this two-tone kind of diamond cut and gloss black. It looks really good. And then as you can see, there is drilled brake rotors, and then the calipers themselves, same in the front, they're orange, and they do have the McLaren script written down the side. There is another little rear brake caliper up there at the top, but it's painted in gloss black, which I think is a nice little touch, and it doesn't add too much orange to the wheel. So moving on to the very rear of the model, as you can see, it just sticks out quite a good distance. And just to show you like a little size comparison, this is the I-scale Audi R8. And so I know it's kind of backwards, but as you can see, I mean, this thing is just absolutely humongous, just like a whole extra inch longer, or maybe a little bit more than an inch longer than this R8. So that is just absolutely incredible thing to look at. I mean, it's ridiculous. So showing you guys the rear, the diffuser is obviously all in carbon fiber, and Autoart does a really good job with their carbon. As you can see, the weave looks really good. Try to show you some more of the details in the light. So there's a huge diffuser that pops out, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but it does go down and deep in there pretty far. The exhaust tailpipes are finished in kind of this chrome surrounding, and they have this kind of really long kind of oval shape that sticks out pretty far. So that is a really cool feature. Moving on though, it does say Speedtail on the rear license plate, and you get a nice crisp McLaren badge right there, and then some kind of brake lights as well on each side. So one thing to note on this model is that these little tail fins are kind of like movable, as you can see. I mean, on the real car, it's carbon fiber, and they adjust, and they're seamless with the paint. And so in this car, you're kind of able to move them a little bit. I mean, it's a little flexible. Not too sure if they intended to make that a feature, but they did add it, and you can bend it up a little bit, which is really cool. But they don't really sit flush, as you can see, and they probably did that on purpose. But it is a cool little touch that they added to this model. But looking at the rear deck lid itself, as you can see, it's kind of like perforated. I don't think it's not actually mesh, it's just these little dots that they added. But it does look really neat when you look at it from a distance. Right here in the middle, there is a large brake light that stands out. And then honestly, I don't really know what else is going on here. There is like an electric charger and like a gas cap on each side. But the vents themselves on the rear, you can't really make out. I mean, this one is real mesh, I believe, back there. And there is a roof scoop that kind of sits on the rear side of the model. It doesn't stick up at all. But I will go ahead and open up some of these features so you guys can see. So this little trunk lid does open up, but there isn't really much to see back there. I'm not too sure what's going on. This is actually the luggage, not the engine, so don't get confused on that. And it is finished in carbon fiber, which is really nice. So it does come with a three-piece luggage set, which is really cool, and I'm really having a hard time getting all these out. But I believe they're mostly all the same. I just folded them on top of each other. Here we go. Here's one. And the other one is the same in there, so I'm not going to take that one out. But these are both finished in carbon fiber. As you can see, there's a nice little split weave right down the middle of these luggage cases. So that is really neat and a cool little piece that they added into this model. And like I said, there's a third piece in there, but I couldn't get it out. So I'm going to close that back up in a second. But as you can see, this does stand on these nice little metal hinges right there. There is carbon fiber that continues through, and as you can see the split weave that goes through the body of the car and the trunk. Let me try to get this out, or at least stand it up so I can show you what's in there. So it's kind of like this fine, it's kind of like a sandpaper feeling on the bottom of there. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to emulate, but there's not carpet back there, so kind of a letdown, but you know, it does look pretty good. Especially with the carbon detail that's back there. So as we move through the car, I did forget to mention that the the kind of the upper cabin of this car is separated by this nice little chrome strip that follows through around the entirety of the kind of upper section of this vehicle. Obviously a bunch of glass to kind of let air or light in through the model. The top is tinted a little bit, but the rear side or the lower side is not. So as you can see, there's kind of a little split that follows through the front of the windshield as well. So let me go ahead and open up the doors and I'll show you the interior. As you can see, it is very orange and these doors do open up pretty big. So this is the view from the front with the doors open and it looks absolutely spectacular. So let me show you some of the details inside. Just a sea of orange in here, and a lot of details to kind of take in. So as you can see, this is the Speedtail that's kind of supposed to be the successor of the F1. So it's got 3 seats on each side of the cabin. And as you can see, there's kind of like a stitched cross section that goes down in the middle on each side. And then some black like piping, I guess, in the middle. So it does look really good, but the seats do look kind of plasticky, I must admit, as you can see. But honestly, when it's closed, it doesn't really come across that bright. So that's not really an issue for me, but when you open it up, it does look just a little cheap in there. So let me kind of show you what's going on with the dashboard itself. So obviously on each side, right and left, there are 2 screens, which are supposed to be like the cameras. It's just kind of hard to see, but obviously the center gauge cluster with the speedometer on the dashboard. And I think everything is kind of just finished in carbon fiber, and it's super hard to record. But there we go. Yeah, as you can see, the steering wheel is carbon fiber, and nice little metal accents along the floorboards. And I believe the gas pedal and stuff is also finished in metal. So it looks really good. As you can see, there's air vents on each side, but honestly, just a really cool interior. And the way these doors work is just like, they're set on these like 2 hinges on each side, but they do look fairly decent. The door cards themselves are kind of undescript. As you can see, there's not really too much detail going on with that, but there is carbon fiber all through the side of the car, or like the side of the doors, so that is really neat. So honestly, I probably would just display this with the doors up because it looks absolutely majestical. So I'll close those back down, and there's one more thing to show you guys, and that is the front, or the frunk, however you want to call it. So I'll pop that open, and we have one more luggage piece, which is really neat. This one's kind of supposed to be wrapped in leather, but it does have the carbon fiber, of course, like the other pieces of luggage do. So honestly, a really cool set. Here's kind of the 3 different pieces that you get. Like I said, you do get one more of these that's still in the trunk. So if you're buying this car used like I did, just make sure it has all the luggage to come with it. So the front of the car itself is also finished in carbon fiber. As you can see, it is kind of like that cheaper carbon fiber, I must say. It does feel kind of like textured a little bit, especially within here, but the rest of it does look pretty decent. This is just kind of like painted, so there's no carpet, there's no orange carpet in there. It's just kind of painted orange to match the interior. So that's kind of this model as a whole. Overall, I think it's really cool. I mean, for $200 though, you do not get an opening engine bay, which is kind of unfortunate. And $200 is what I paid for. I mean, you might pay $280 for this model, and to not get an opening trunk or opening engine bay is kind of a disappointment. But I think on this car, you won't be able to access the engine bay by itself. So, I mean, that is true to the real car, but it just stinks that we couldn't get that on the model car to see what's in there. But overall, you know, it's just a really lovely model. I mean, a purple Autoart Speedtail is about as rare as it gets. I'm not exactly too sure on how many models they produced of this car, but I assume it was, you know, probably around 1,000 to 2,000, maybe more, of probably this particular spec. But I could be totally wrong, so don't take that and assume that that's how many models. I'm just assuming that that's how many they're producing. But yeah, overall, I would probably give this model a solid 7 out of 10, maybe even an 8, I would say. It's just the spec and the carbon fiber work on the wheels and the details that they added through the extra luggage that you get is just a really cool added feature. And I would recommend it. I mean, if you want to get a Speedtail for your collection, it looks absolutely insane. And like I said, just a comparison between some of the other models, this thing's absolutely humongous. It doesn't sit very high, but it's just very long. So that's kind of my review of this model. Let me know if you guys have any questions about it in the comments below. But thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video. Take it easy, guys. Bye.